Hello, everyone. They closed the door, so I think I'm about to start. Hope my slides will turn up. Yes, they are there. It's a special session for me, actually. It's my 10th anniversary. I come to this festival as a speaker. I'm very grateful to have been part of the journey so far, and I hope I can give you some good session and some inspiring session. Some of you might know me from my newsletter, Wayfinder. It's my weekly attempt to kind of capture what's moving in media, to gather links and insights, and to make sense of the directions that we're heading. Once a year, I also create a trends report that looks back and looks ahead. And this is a special Perugian edition of that report featuring a selection of 5 chapters, 50 slides in 25 minutes. I hope you're ready. So let's start with our collective, what I call the future shock, and it's not just me who said this, it was actually Alvin Toffler who invented this phrase, and I must say that until a few years ago, I had never heard of him. But he was a pretty famous futurist in the 1970s. Toffler was born in New York City, aspired to be a writer, and began his career as a journalist for Fortune magazine. He was later hired by IBM to conduct research and to write a paper on the social and organizational impact of computers and AI. In 1970, he wrote his most famous book, Future Shock. And Future Shock is actually an exploration into what happens to society when change happens too fast. Toffler described how the stress from this rapid change leads to societal confusion and disrupts like the normal decision-making processes that we have. And today, as technology accelerates, we are increasingly collectively future shocked. The exponential growth of AI kind of outpaces our ability to adapt and challenging even a bit our understanding of what it means to be human. At the same time, we're also navigating a complex web of interconnected crises and megatrends, ranging from our environment crisis, I wanted to say, social tensions, tech dominance, and I would say democratic struggle, which we are seeing everywhere in the world as well. And all these powerful dynamics are driving change. If you simplify the structure of this future shock graph, then 2 elements stand out. A rapid acceleration, which is very similar to the shape of a hockey stick, is characterized by sharp and explosive growth. And the second, it's a cross where acceleration actually meets decline. And these 2 graphs are, I think, very useful in explaining what's happening to media and the state of media currently as well. Take the hockey stick. It perfectly maps onto TikTok's explosive growth over the last few years, as well as the rapid spread of AI. OpenAI amassed 1 million users in less than 10 days. For legacy media companies, this kind of represents a dual challenge. We must innovate faster than ever to kind of keep up with the market challenges and changes, but at the same time, we also have to figure out our bottom line and how do we maintain our values of our brands. And then the cross reflects another reality of media, that of the shift to digital. Traditional formats are declining as digital consumption is rising. For audio and video, this is evident in the increasing device-based video viewing for younger generations, and a near even split of audio, listening between live and on demand. The shift to digital is, of course, also happening in print. And while newspapers and magazines remain financially very significant, the latest World Press Trends report shows a steep decline in print revenue. And unfortunately, online earnings aren't yet sufficient to bridge this gap. So the hard truth is that even though print and digital paths are also crossing, it doesn't mean things will kind of revert to how they were before. And chapter 2 is, I guess, no surprise, AI. And I mention it because you could say that the next shift, another crossing, is already happening. It's already here. AI is unlocking new forms of media and media making. And as this example from Aftenposten illustrates, it has the potential to quickly become a new media habit. It's too early to really truly know the impact of AI on media and how it will play out. But given its nature and its capabilities, it's impacting every aspect of the media model and the media ecosystem. It impacts on what and how and who we consider to be media. It impacts on the makers and the creative process. It impacts on who controls access and discovery, and it impacts the expectations and the behavior of the audience as well. And in the end, it impacts on where and how value is captured and value is monetized. The promise that it gives us all is the kind of creative superpowers. At least that's on the box. It's going to be magic with AI. And in fields like copywriting and marketing, there's already a clear before and after generative AI. A recent study among professional writers revealed that the time they spent on writing a long-form blog post went from several hours to less than an hour for most of the assignments. And the study didn't comment on the quality of the output, but in many cases, it did the job. So publishers and media companies have recognized both the potential and the threat of AI. While many are still determining how to leverage it, others are actively investing by establishing dedicated teams. And they're not only investing in dedicated teams and new roles, but also figuring out how to get the most out of AI in the daily workflow. After initial experiments, some of the frontrunners are baking AI into their newsroom CMSs for obvious use cases like headline suggestions or article summaries. And these dedicated adaptations have improved user interfaces. They are better than the normal ChatGPT interface. They require less rework and introduce more logical decision points for journalists and for editors. But for all the investment, newsrooms are also expecting some productivity and return on investment, of course. Back-end tasks like transcriptions and copy editing are seen as top priorities for 56% of newsroom leaders, as was clear in the latest Reuters Institute predictions for 2024. Additionally, 28% see opportunities in content creation, such as headlines and summarizations, while a similar percentage views commercial, marketing, and product development as key areas for AI application. And I think productivity gains are important, but to convince users, value is also needed in the experience. AI-powered summaries, smart news filters, offering news articles as audio versions are some of the examples that are already out there and that seem to be appreciated. And finally, and I hope to discover many more examples because I feel generative AI as a kind of creative content tool is not yet explored enough. AI makes new forms of storytelling possible, like this text-to-image data visualization here. And just because generative AI is becoming increasingly better at converting one media form to another, it also offers many possibilities for accessibility. Action audio is an example that I give here, which turns spatial data into 3D sound experiences, offering like a sports match, making it much more accessible for people that are hearing impaired. And as a public broadcaster, we're also exploring how we can offer adaptive language versions of news articles in the original languages of major populations, groups that are currently not mastering Dutch as a language. However, the impact of all of this is rather limited for the time being, and the real acceleration is happening somewhere else. The numbers of deepfake porn images, phishing emails, cyber attacks, and AI-generated misinformation, that's where AI has really exploded in 2023. Not in journalism, not in news, but in these areas. Generative AI is increasingly being misused by scammers, by get-rich-quick influencers. They're dumping generated and cloned videos, articles across the web and social media, all in pursuit of money and attention. And ironically, this abuse is starting to ruin the very platforms that are making these AI tools available for the public in the first place. The rapid rise of AI might also shape the next generation. You have to think that a new generation is now growing up in a world where AI's influence will profoundly change entertainment, communication, and education. They will be native to AI, with tailored, kid-friendly interfaces and educational tools integrating AI seamlessly into their daily lives. Meanwhile, Gen Zers are already driving the early adoption of AI technologies for fun and for learning. And it goes without saying that this new smart layer in technology will be at their fingertips on their smartphones, which have become like a symbolic milestone for the younger generation. In the US, 43% of the children aged 8 to 12 already have a smartphone. And if you reach the teenage age, then it's 95% that own a device. And while these gadgets provide support, they also introduce new stress, with children receiving over 200 notifications on a day. And a typical day for a 9-year-old now is filled with YouTube, games, and it illustrates the deep integration of online media in their lives. And for those in that age group from 8 years on to 12 years on to older, the big US tech companies are running the show, with Alphabet, and that's Google, and YouTube leading the pack. Traditional media like TV and newspapers are trying to work overtime to keep up with the attention these tech giants are having. But these platforms are just, they're changing the game. They're kind of rewriting the map of how young people find and enjoy fun, but also news increasingly. The advent of generative AI is also an accelerator of online creation because it's easier, it's more accessible, and faster to go from ID to output. So you could also say that there is a generation of generators that is shaping up, with a significant majority that's already actively creating and posting video content online. They're not just consumers, but they're also producers, with nearly half of them seeking out specific creators that are producing content for them. And they have an increasing comfort with technology. As is evident, 65% of them use video filters and effects, and 60% are open to AI-generated content, as was clear in the latest YouTube Trends report, signaling a future where content creation and curation are deeply embedded in their kind of digital DNA. TikTok is perhaps the app the most loved by these new creators, and it's understandable because it's super easy to use. It has a fluid format, and it's great for finding people who share your interests. So you can really address certain niches. Plus, it makes teaming up a breeze. You can collaborate on content, and it helps to get you much more closer and more intimately to a specific audience. And I guess more than any platform, TikTok is able to kind of measure or capture the culture of these young people, from the immediate moments to the trending signals to more large-scale forces that define societal shifts. It's a platform where a cultural pulse is set and measured, and it shows that it's a driver and a reflector of contemporary trends. TikTok is also the first app that reaches $10 billion in all-time consumer spends. And they reached this last year, and they're adding another billion every quarter. They have mastered not only capturing attention and engagement through social video, but they're also able to monetize it. The majority of its in-app revenue comes from coins that are used to tip creators during live streams. And while this isn't a news content environment, or not really a news content environment, I think traditional media can draw valuable lessons from how TikTok generates revenue from a younger audience. Finally, as communication shifts to more private channels like WhatsApp channels and Instagram channels, these platforms are also exploring ways to blend the intimacy of these private community channels to a broadcast approach. And these new features like WhatsApp channels and Instagram broadcast channels now allow you to update, and updates that are sent privately to many followers at once. So it's a kind of new broadcast model. And this makes it easier to send out content broadly with less effort and without the clutter of a public news feed where you have to moderate. So there's a reason why they shift to this, because they don't want to invest in moderation, of course. This shift to news channels, more private, less in the spirit of the original social media, is, I think, also part of a broader shift. Social media's influence as a traffic source for publishers is clearly declining. Even Facebook, which was the leading referrer, has seen a drop alongside platforms like X. And this trend points to a broader downturn in social media's willingness to direct to top news sites and to web destinations. In 2023, social media has actively stepped away. They shifted away from news content. Facebook reduced the presence of news in user feeds, and Meta and Google limited news access in countries like Canada. Elon Musk even suggested at some time to systematically throttle news traffic to the New York Times on platforms like X. It's a clear and it's a big shift, and they're not coming back. Meanwhile, search, that other source of traffic, is also being disrupted. Conversational AI interfaces skip the whole idea of links and take you straight to the answer on your question. And Google is already rethinking its search experience, placing AI-generated answers right at the top of the experience and pushing traditional links down. And with it, the whole business model, of course, that was connected to it. For the moment, Google has kept this in the labs. They're not yet, they're clearly getting signals, don't do this, so they might still rethink how this looks like. But for me, it's a pointer to how search is changing. Search is also shifting towards more private conversational apps, as we saw before, that are now being enhanced with AI. For example, just 2 months after the rollout of Snapchat's My AI, which is an AI bot in Snapchat, it has already processed 10 billion messages. Among those, 10 million focused on sports news, another 10 million on entertainment news, and similar numbers on travel, lifestyle, and cars. These are all topics that are traditionally or were traditionally covered by publishers as well. Meta has launched its own AI chat just this week, featuring it in WhatsApp and Instagram, so reaching even more users who will turn to these platforms to find answers on their questions. And so what we see is a shift in how we discover things, away from search, which is still the main gateway for discovery, to social streaming platforms, and now also AI-powered bots. And these are numbers from the Netherlands, but I'm quite sure they're also happening in other countries. So for the last 10 years, 3 big interfaces reigned the internet: the homepage, search, and social media. And all these 3 are potentially now being disrupted by the rise of conversational bots and generative interfaces. So this puts current business models of media companies under pressure, and whoever has access to audience in these new platforms can own the relationship and its business potential. So it's natural that this potential disruption of the business model has led to an increasing number of publishers that are now trying to block LLM bots in order to protect the original content from being used in AI training and being surfaced in AI bots. But there's also those that think differently, like Politico, and I really thought that was an interesting example. They redesigned their website to allow for easier scraping because they want to be part of it. And so publishers are facing a dilemma in how to respond to AI companies using their content. They can sue for copyright infringement, and they can block access, or they can try to forge partnerships. And major partners, major publishers like Axel Springer and the Associated Press have already chosen to partner with OpenAI, allowing ChatGPT to summarize and link to their content. However, such alliances may only be feasible for really large publishers, underscoring how complex this evolving landscape of AI and media rights is. As you can see, the red thread of all of this, the common thread through this presentation, and this is that there is a big shift coming, and it will continue to be the case in the future. And probably the biggest next shift that is already happening is the one to video and audio. While only a few models were available at the beginning of 2023, there's now a real race for production-worthy models. And in audio, I think we already have reached that milestone. And I believe both in speech and music generation, they're production-worthy models now. Video still has a long way to go. And even if you're all maybe have seen the Sora clips, there's a lot of editing still happening to make those results really work. On the same wave of the evolution to audio and video are models that can handle just about any media and take that as input for a number of tasks, from sound to a picture, from a video to a text analysis. Google's Gemini model is a good example, and we can expect the upcoming GPT-5 model to also embrace this concept of a supermodel that can go from anything to anything, and perhaps even combine multiple forms of media as input and generate multiple outputs. Waiting after a prompt, which now still is the case, can soon also be over. I think generative AI is advancing to real time. It's transforming your prompts into something that's instantly happening. and there's already a few examples out there. Perplexity AI is trying to create a real-time alternative to Google search. HeyGen is kind of generating avatars almost nearly instant, and Meta's new multi-language model translates almost directly, which makes that you can have a conversation with somebody in a different language instantly translated. And while the advantages of that are clear, I think that also opens a whole new domain of challenges in live news where all these things can be generated instantly. And closely related to that is the evolution towards mobile, with Qualcomm and Google leading the charge by enabling smart AI models to run directly on your phones. So they don't need to be connected to the cloud anymore, it's happening on your phone. And the vision is that it's fast and private AI that will be so seamless that you will almost forget it's an AI on your phone. It could be soon in everyone's pockets, that's the ID, in everyone's phone, ready at the tap, without internet required. Another key evolution is the idea of agents. And agents come in many forms, but the core idea, for those that are not familiar with it, is that you set a task and that the agent comes up with a multi-step plan to achieve the goal. For example, first doing the research, then writing a draft, then coming up with a byline, and then coming up with a headline. It would be a task that you could give an agent. And often these agents will be embodied by devices, could be your smartphone, or it could be something you carry around that you talk to. This means that it becomes increasingly closer to us again. It's in our personal devices, it's something that's in your pocket, and from a tool to understand the world, it has become a device to create and generate things for us, and also a thing that's very connected to a very private thing, because language at its core is very private and it's very intimate, and that's why character chatbots, these kind of chatbots that are emulating a character, are the second most popular category of AI tools out there now. And what you increasingly see in AI apps is devices and apps that are trying to be personal memory devices as well. So they try to come closer to you as a person and even maybe even make a digital twin of you that stores your every ID. I guess it's good that in that area, the EU AI Act defines some crucial boundaries, and it will be still some time before it's implemented, but I think as a step and as a signal, it's quite important to set boundaries, for example, by including analyzing emotions as a high-risk application and prohibiting it in areas for work or education, because if everything can be read and used as data, then nothing is truly secure. So we're almost at the end, but I'm sure that you have heard some of these evolutions, or you might have picked it up, some of these things that I just mentioned. What makes this moment so unique is that they all seem to happen at the same time. And together they create a very disruptive cocktail, a very disruptive cyclone that will exert pressure on society, on organizations, and on individuals. And as we are still in a kind of magic maze, it's hard to get out, it's hard to foresee what will play out. There's a lot of ripple effects that might be coming, both big and small. So I'll just focus on a few of them, on 4 of them. I think it's obvious that generating content at scale, what we currently are seeing, has become easier than ever, but this also means that content will lose any value the most of the content. Not all of the content, but a lot of this content will lose value. Disruption in this new and kind of noisy world comes increasingly from new entrants that are not constrained by any journalistic standards or classic definitions of what news should be or quality should be. And the question is even, will this matter for the audience? Will the idea of quality shift as well? Good enough goes a long way to capture attention. And because of that, the challenge for publishers is then to stand out, to define what makes them unique, to define their mission, to build real connections, to have real original storytelling and reporting that makes a difference, but also do that with these new technologies. And finally, I don't think AI will save publishers, but it might be a power to reinvent ourselves, and not as just bringers of news and information, but as valuable services in a very complex world. So let's end with Alvin, my friend. where we began with one of his main lessons from Future Shock. And he said the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And we're ahead of a lot of learning there. So that was my presentation. I don't know if I have any time left, but if you want, there's no time left anymore. I used my 25 minutes.